Howdy, Cape Codders. Welcome to another edition of the Scannell Agenda. My name's Steve Scannell. This is show number 46. Title of this show is Megasystem, Food, Soil, and Recycle. Now this is a combination of three systems that I've been working on, and I combined them. As I mentioned, I was a kid growing up in Harwich, and we had kind of an organic garden. My brother Dave especially insisted it be all organic. This was as a young boy and a teenager, and I remember becoming a man was the day I think I ran the rototiller. My dad let me actually run the rototiller. I was probably 11 or something like that. I really felt like bigger than life because I could run that rototiller, and it was, you know, hard to run it, but I could run it. I was a little kid. Maybe I was 12. So my brother Dave and myself and Paul sometimes and Dad, we'd once in a while gather up organics, and we really built some good soil in the garden. And we put herring in the soil for the corn mostly. So I grew up with that, and we had a little stand on Main Street. Right across from Brack's Landing was the house. We called it 706, or the office. So that's where I grew up, and out back, of course, was the garden. Now, I can tell you the food from that garden was so delicious. And you really did know that it came from really the best soil, because it was the best food from the garden. We grew all the standard things like, you know, cucumbers and squash, and a lot of tomatoes and radishes and lettuce, and of course corn and watermelons. Every year we'd have watermelons from the compost pile. We always had a couple of really big compost piles going. So I think I really had the best food that anyone could eat. Now I think that counts for something economically too. If you feed kids a bunch of garbage food or substandard quality food, now what do we think we're going to get from that? Boy, I gotta tell you, I just ate everything in the wild too. Was green cranberries and blackberries and grapes and green, you name it. I'd eat it before it was ripe, and then it was ripe, I'd come home with a full belly, and my mom never minded, or Dad. You know, if you ate outside, that was good. So good food is worth money, especially if we're giving codfish to kids, and we're raising some of the brightest and shiniest kids you've ever seen in your life. Now, I think this was taken for granted decades and decades ago, that, you know, the food was wholesome and good, and the fish was plentiful and cheap here in New England. And we've got to bring those days back. We really do. Bring back the good, wholesome food and fish and shellfish, etc. So this system, which I call a megasystem, is concentrating on good soil or healthy soil. So it's so important that we get together on this and state the importance, or lack thereof, of good soil to us as a society. Now, if we want to advantage good soil, we can do that using these market quota system style systems that I'm so good at drawing up. I've been doing it for years, so it was a natural that when I started looking into our food systems, that of course I'm going to go with the market quota system, which is simply put, we tax what we don't like, and we subsidize what we do like. Now, that's going to work? Yeah, that'll work. It's pretty simple, but that kind of thing works. It's just like the carrot and the stick. Now, we don't have to be grandiose about it. and we can start small and easy. These systems all converge on the retail, but these systems don't really happen on a retail level. They happen on other levels. On a materials handling level for your materials, let's say that your food is packaged in, or that your flat screen TV is packaged in. All these consumer items especially, and other items too. Everything now is boiling down to the fact that we own these materials as a public when we're all through with the materials, or let's say the gallon jug of the milk I use for an example on the recycling system. But before I get into that, let's just say we can subsidize good soil in a couple of different ways. We can feed the front end by subsidizing organics to be put into the soils. Now this can put people to work in great numbers. This particular aspect of subsidizing organic materials to be put into the soil on a farm or in a garden, anything that's being productive. Again, with the market quota system, I don't get religious with, well, why are you gardening and who's gardening? It's more or less like the market quota system tailored for fishing. The system itself doesn't need to ask the questions about commercial or recreational fishing. And so with subsistence farming and hobbyist gardeners, etc., everyone will be able to plug into this Megasystem to improve the soils. So we subsidize the organics and the materials going into the soil, and then we subsidize the products that are organic, or mostly organic, hopefully. We'll get together on a lot of that, I suppose, but subsidize the products coming from this beautiful, wholesome soil, unlabeled as such. So if you are a very discriminating diner at a restaurant, you'd have a seal of approval that they would come up with. It's all sustainably farmed, et cetera, you know, farmed locally, and all the good soil and everything done right. That's what we're interested in. Now, this, at the retail level, this is where things kind of get controlled as far as the pricing goes. So your food, let's say a couple of pounds of kale might be taxed at 2 cents. But your bubble gum and soda and your junk food might be taxed at a much higher rate. And so you could use the junk food and the overly processed foods that we eat that are causing America to become fat America, as one of my friends would say, and she'd look around and she'd shake her head and say, "Fat America." Now, she was on a strict diet and was a very good eater, and very diligent. But if you look around, we're getting fat, and I think what they're saying is, of course, the fatter you get, the more needy your body becomes for good nutrients, and the fat is caused by poor nutrition, among other things, and discipline too. So food and recyclable materials and soil will be under my system here, this Megasystem for food, soil, and recycle. You come up with an acronym if you would like. You could call it just call it the Megasystem for food, and just, you know, assume that you're talking about the soil when you're talking about food, and you're also talking about the packaging for food. So you could say it's a Megasystem for food, and these other items ancillary too. Now, the recycle system I've been working on for many years, since Nantucket, and that is entailed of basic market quota system philosophy is to tax the container for a gallon of milk if that is fully 100% recyclable, then that gallon container might be taxed at a half a penny. Whereas a cardboard package or a paper and plastic package that's pretty much not recyclable, they are reusable, so you might get some points for that if you're going to reuse it. But you know, the little carton of milk, or half and half, let's say. Nice little container. It's not really recyclable. You throw it to the garbage and it gets thrown away. Goes to CMAS, gets burnt up. Well, maybe not in our interest to be continuing with such as burning and landfilling, etc. And with a good megasystem for recycle soil and food, we also have the economy of scale, since we're treating three very related things in one system. And we can achieve great economies of scale. Now, your consumers, myself and yourself, you go to the store, and if you look at the printout now of what you're getting and what it was and what it is and how many pounds it is, these are quite detailed right now. So on every item you could have the Mega Food System tax or subsidy listed, and then you could go to a web page and find out all about it if you wanted to. These things can start very slowly and simply, and then you can turn the heat up. It's just like fisheries. The changes in fisheries that we need to make, don't need to make them overnight. You can institute these over time and phase in. I think that's a pretty wise thing to do. So with a little bottle of perfume, you're going to charge for recycling on that. Let's just say it's ornamental bottle of perfume, and it's got a fancy package, you know. Okay, you don't want to step on people's toes. So let's say it's a nice little perfume bottle in a shell or something, what have you. Or something like this, and it's fancy and it's decorative. I want to be careful about getting too onerous with, you know, you don't want the government in everybody's business all the time to a ridiculous level. So you can have minimal treatment of these oddball little items. Oh, this is a glass bottle here. It's got a plastic top, so that's very recyclable. And it's appropriate to the material, let's say, and safe. Oh, safety, that's another thing you could factor in. Safety on different levels. Now, we tax the sin tax for the food that's unsafe that we think is horrendous, like soda, which it is. I was just listening to the radio, I think it was NPR today, and they're doing a study on sugar in our food being carcinogenic. You know, there was a talk about a woman who was doing a study in the rats eating the sugar, and how the cancer metastasized, and all this was related to the evils of sugar. All right. I like a little bit of sugar. I think I had some sugar in my coffee today. I usually don't, but I was feeling pretty good, so I put sugar in my coffee. That's my choice. I don't want to be punished severely. But no, I think we can probably come together and put the hammer on sugar, especially in sweet drinks, because we're paying for health care. We can justify getting into people's business. If we weren't paying for health care, if we were a libertarian society, my preferred society would be pretty much strict libertarian, and people would pitch in. Right, that ain't going to happen. But I mean, in my fantasy, a libertarian society would be the ideal, and then people would pitch in and help each other. And there would be a very small government, small and simple. That's delicious cranberry juice. Straight up this time. I must be feeling my oats here, huh? So, The sugar in cranberry juice, you might say, well, you got to sweeten cranberry juice more than grapefruit juice. I'm not sure, maybe you don't, but maybe there's people that can justify these types of taxes and how much they should be, and medical people and nutrition people. And, you know, start small, start the ball rolling. The important thing is that we're not going to be jerked around by a big company and pretty much dictating our food sources, unlabeled food, genetically modified organisms, GMOs. We're going, I think, down this bad path of bad food. And with this system, we can turn it around, slow but sure. Now, at the point of manufacture of all these materials for recycling, we can start slow and easy and tax what we don't like and start very slowly. Let people know, well, we're going to be increasing that tax, but right now it's pretty slow. So, hey Dick, I got Friday, I'm all set. All right, thanks.
I'll see you Friday.
Okay. So, the point is, this is not going to get out of control if we do say, okay, we'll do this system, this mega food system, because we want to. I think we do want to. I think when this gets presented properly as something that's in everybody's interest, pretty much in everybody's interest. Like I said, if we're raising kids with codfish, all right, let's say if it was our first rule that any cod that we had left over from growing the cod fishery back, the first best thing to do with that codfish would be to feed the kids with it and not just put it on the market. You can actually let the kids catch the cod too and eat it, especially here in Massachusetts. Wouldn't be hard at all to do. But now if we were feeding our kids codfish in the schools, you know, fresh codfish, I loved it when I was a kid. I was incensed when my mother boycotted the codfish. When I was a little boy, I was incensed. And I think that started me off on this path of not appreciating government workers. Really, truly, I think that was it. I loved codfish that much. I was really mad. Anyway, codfish for the children. Now, what could be more wholesome in American than giving good, bright-eyed kids that are starting off in life, giving them the best food possible, right? I don't think there's anything more wholesome than that. Now, the healthcare system, you know, there's all these arguments about healthcare, and basically it comes down to communism. You want to support communism with some kind of socialistic system, and you know, I think you got to look at the business model. I just say, show me the business model. We're talking business. I want to see the model. Now, this Megasystem would fit into the business model for a healthcare system. I mean, leaving Karl Marx and Mussolini aside for the moment, if we can, with all these ridiculous antics. Codfish for the kids should be our #1 goal. Let the kids catch the cod, let the kids and their teachers and family eat the cod, and do some school fundraising. Now, if we're going to do a 7-year rest for the codfish and 80% shutdown of these fisheries, as I've mentioned, that's what we need to do to get the codfish and a lot of other fisheries. Just use the codfish. It's kind of the flagship of the fishing industry here in New England. Now, now we can have kids building boats and working on gear for the future of the oceans. You know, these reef systems that I haven't really gotten into yet, but I will. And sand dredge systems and a lot of re-engineering from Mother Nature, inshore and upstream. All these things can put people to work in a gainful way and not like make work, because these natural systems, like the ditch going up through the cranberry bog that produces so many barrels of herring every year, you know, that's all gainful, productive work, let's say. So if you're raising these kids on the codfish and they're out there catching the codfish, that's really good. And then the rest of us can pitch in and eat cod too. But I think the kids should be first. So we will all generally like working with the Scannell brand name complex comprehensive systems designs. These are designs for the public trust. And that's all of us, we the people. Now we can have really nice systems we like, we can have. We don't have to answer to these huge mega farming agribusiness corporations. We can design systems ourselves. They've got it designed for us because we're dumb and we let them. That's all. We're just dumb. So the food, soil, recycle systems, it's a mega system that'll work. It's very simple. It's the basic conditions are very simple and not a shock to anyone's system, even if you're in the packaging industries. Let's say I think you will be impressed with how well we can design standards for materials and packaging that we all can enjoy working with. Now, if you don't enjoy recycling now, I think in the future with this system you will enjoy recycling, because you'll be able to take the value from your materials, let's say that container for the milk, and you'll be able to sell that. That'll be subsidized. That material will be subsidized and you'll do well. You'll enjoy recycling and you will enjoy helping others more so than you do now. That's my vision, because a big part of this is what I call societal services systems, SSS. That's one of my big files. And that's things like Bay Bridge, putting your kids to work, putting your disabled to work. These systems here, this mega system in particular, will put a lot of us to work, a lot of Bay Bridge folks like me that would love to recycle. Now recycling, you might say, well, I don't want to do that. Well, a lot of people would love to do that because it's work that's kind of simple and easy and no stress. You know, you go ahead and recycle. You know, if you get your materials coming in and you sort, and you get paid by the pound, as I've explained earlier, and then you're done for the day, and it's good exercise too, that kind of thing. But societal services systems will be big plugging into this mega system for food, soil, and recycle. This is big. What's the food wrapped up in? Materials. Most food has a material around it. It's packaging. And we can create wealth and jobs with a good systems approach. I'd like to think I'm pretty good at this by now. We're using and reusing materials and putting simple people to work at a great job. Simple job for simple man. You know, that's wonderful. So kale, think of kale and bubble gum. They're two different foods, if you will. And they'll be treated differently. But it's still going to be America. You know, you don't need to flip out here. just a little incentive for the good and a little disincentive for the bad, good and bad. You know, we can embellish this till the cows come home, what's good and what's bad and why. But let's keep our heads about this and do things right. We don't want to have leaky gut, do we? And this is the project of the century, to get us all sick with all these genetically modified organisms and pesticides and herbicides. And it's really going to catch up with us if we don't get a handle on it. And remember your mom and dad and your grandma and your grandpa. And what did they eat? Remember, if they're great, they ate great food. And if you're great and you came up the ranks and you were fed good food, well, then you owe it to the kids coming up the ranks to at least feed every single kid good food, good, really healthy food. And you want to look at your kids and see the brightest, shiniest kids in the world. And work them and run them, and you know, they'll turn out good if we at least start with the good food and good schools, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is a system for rich and poor and everyone in between. I think we will all like this Megasystem. You could call it a triple system or call it what you will. It's a mega food system. It's for food, it's for soil, it's for recycle. Maybe we can have a catchy name. But where we are now, let's look at where we are now with all these syntaxes, all right? It's a situation. And let's really take stock of what the current situation is. We have some problems, so let's take stock of what we're dealing with and fix it. If we think it's broken, we want to use this market quota system value price, we can do that. It's all good. It's a great system. Don't need to talk it to death. Just need to basically do it and start out small. Okay, well, that's the Scannell agenda for today. Thanks very much for watching.